Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Green Room Extension, where we are discussing women who run with wolves with my special guest, local goddess Rachel. Thanks for coming back, Rach.
Yeah, thank you. This has been fun.
It has been. This week we are still in chapter 2. We are in the second half of chapter 2. The story that we were talking about is Bluebeard. So we're going to go ahead and refresh our memories by reading the story of Bluebeard. And then we will jump back into Miss Clarissa's evaluation of the story. She has about 4 more. Let me see. How many did we have altogether? Backtracking and looping, giving the cry, the cinders, and yeah, so 4 more sections that she wanted to talk about. So I will go ahead and let Miss Rachel read the story for us as the guest, and then we'll jump back into the rest of chapter 2. I'm so excited.
Yeah, thank you. All right. There is a hank of beard, which is kept at the convent of the white nuns in the far mountains. How it came to the convent, no one knows. Some say it was the nuns who buried what was left of his body, for no one else would touch it. Why the nuns would keep such a relic is unknown, but it is true. My friend's friend has seen it with her own eyes. She says the beard is blue, indigo colored to be exact. It is as blue as the dark ice in the lake, as blue as the shadow of a hole at night. This beard was once worn by one who they say was a failed magician, a giant man with an eye for women, a man known by the name of Bluebeard. 'Twas said he courted 3 sisters at the same time, but they were frightened of his beard with its odd blue cast, and so they hid when he called. In an effort to convince them of his geniality, he invited them on an outing in the forest. He arrived leading horses arrayed in bells and crimson ribbons. He set the sisters and their mother upon the horses, and off they cantered into the forest. There they had a most wonderful day riding, and their dogs ran beside and ahead. Later they stopped beneath a giant tree, and Bluebeard regaled them with stories and fed them dainty treats. The sisters began to think, well, perhaps this man Bluebeard is not so bad after all. They returned home, all a chatter about how interesting the day had been, and did they not have a good time? Yet the 2 older sisters' suspicions and fears returned, and they vowed not to see Bluebeard again. But the youngest sister thought if a man could be that charming, then perhaps he was not so bad. The more she talked to herself, the less awful he seemed, and also the less blue his beard. So, when Bluebeard asked for her hand in marriage, she accepted. She had given his proposal great thought, and felt she was to marry a very elegant man. Marry they did, and after rode off to his castle in the woods. One day he came to her and said, I must go away for a time. Invite your family here if you like. You may ride in the woods, charge the cooks to set a feast. You may do anything you like, anything your heart desires. In fact, here is my ring of keys. You may open any and every door in the storerooms, the money rooms, any door in the castle. But this little tiny key, the one with the scroll work on top, do not use. His bride replied, Yes, I'll do as you ask. It all sounds very fine. So go, my dear husband, and do not have a worry, and come back soon. And so off he rode, and she stayed. Her sisters came to visit, and they were, as all souls are, very curious about what the master had said was to be done while he was away. The young wife gaily told them, He said we may do anything we desire, and enter any room we wish, except one. But I don't know which one it is. I just have a key, and I don't know which door it fits. The sisters decided to make a game of finding which key fit the door. The castle was 3 stories high, with 100 doors in each wing, and there were many keys on the ring. They crept from door to door, having an immensely good time, throwing open each door. Behind one door were the kitchen stores, behind another the money stores. All manner of holdings were behind the doors, and everything seemed more wonderful all the time. At last, having seen all these marvels, they came finally to the cellar, and at the end of the corridor, a blank wall. They puzzled over the last key, the one with the little scrollwork on top. Maybe this key doesn't fit anything at all. As they said this, they heard an odd sound. They peeked around the corner, and lo and behold, there was a small door just closing. When they tried to open it again, it was firmly locked. One cried, "Sister, sister, bring your key. Surely this is the door for that mysterious little key." Without a thought, one of the sisters put the key in the door and turned it. The lock scolded. The door swung open, but it was so dark inside they could not see. "Sister, sister, bring a candle." So a candle was lit and held into the room, and all 3 women screamed at once, for in the room was a mire of blood, and the blackened bones of corpses were flung about, and skulls were stacked in corners like pyramids of apples. They slammed the door shut, shook the key out of the lock, and leaned against one another, gasping, breaths heaving. "My God, my God." The wife looked down at the key and saw it was stained with blood. Horrified, she used the skirt of her own gown to wipe it clean, but the blood prevailed. "Oh no!" she cried. Each sister took the tiny key in her hands and tried to make it as it once was, but the blood remained. The wife hid the tiny key in her pocket and ran to the cook's kitchen. When she arrived, her white dress was stained red from pocket to hem, for the key was slowly weeping drops of dark red blood. She ordered the cook, "Quick, give me some horsehair." She scoured the key, but it would not stop bleeding. Drop after drop of pure red blood issued from the tiny key. She took the key outdoors, and from the oven she pressed ashes into it and scrubbed some more. She held it to the heat to sear it. She laid cobweb over it to staunch the flow, but nothing could make the weeping blood subside. "Oh, what am I to do?" she cried. "I know. I'll put the little key away. I'll put it in the wardrobe. I'll close the door. This is a bad dream. All will be all right." And this she did do. Her husband came home the very next morning, and he strode into the castle calling for his wife. "Well, how was it while I was away?" "It's very fine, sir." "And how are my storm rooms?" he rumbled. "Very fine, sir." "How are my money rooms?" he growled. "The money rooms are also very fine, sir." "So everything is good, wife?" "Yes, everything is good." "Well," he whispered, "then you'd best return my keys." Within a glance he saw a key was missing. "Where is the smallest key?" I lost it. Yes, I lost it. I was out riding and the key ring fell down, and I must have lost a key." "What have you done with it, woman?" I don't remember." "Don't lie to me. Tell me what you did with that key." He put his hand to her face as if to caress her cheek, but instead seized her hair. "You infidel!" he snarled, and threw her to the floor. "You've been in the room, haven't you?" He threw open her wardrobe, and the little key on the top shelf had bled blood red down all the beautiful silks of her gowns hanging there. "Now it's your turn, my lady," he screamed, and dragged her down the hall and into the cellar till they were before the terrible door. Bluebeard merely looked at the door with his fiery eyes, and the door opened for him. There lay the skeletons of all his previous wives. "And now," he roared, but she caught hold of the door frame and would not let go. She pleaded for her life. Please, please allow me to compose myself and prepare for my death. Give me but a quarter hour before you take my life, so I can make my peace with God. All right, he snarled. You have but a quarter of an hour, but be ready. The wife raced up the stairs to her chamber and posted her sisters on the castle ramparts. She knelt to pray, but instead called out to her sisters. Sisters, sisters, do you see our brothers coming? We see nothing, nothing on the open plains. Every few moments she cried up to the ramparts. Sisters, sisters, do you see our brothers coming? We see a whirlwind, perhaps a dust devil in the distance. Meanwhile, Bluebeard roared for his wife to come to the cellar so he could behead her. Again she called out, Sisters, sisters, do you see our brothers coming? Bluebeard shouted for his wife again and began to clomp up the stone steps. Her sisters cried out, Yes, we see them. Our brothers are here. They have just entered the castle. Bluebeard strode down the hall towards his wife's chambers. I am coming to get you, he bellowed. His footfalls were dense. The rocks in the hallway came loose. The sand from the mortar poured onto the floor. As Bluebeard lumbered into her chamber with his hands outstretched to seize her, her brothers on horseback galloped down the castle hallway and charged into her room as well. There they rounded Bluebeard out onto the parapet. There and then, with swords, they advanced upon him, striking and slashing, cutting and whipping, beating Bluebeard down to the ground, killing him at last and leaving for the buzzards his blood and gristle.
Wow. Reading that or listening to that all over again, especially after going through some of the chapter already, I'm just like, wow. Talking about hearing it with new eyes and like seeing, more layers than even the first time. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's crazy to hear it with more in mind too.
Yeah. So we've already talked about the natural predator of the psyche, because the story is talking about the naive woman waking up herself in her own consciousness. The naive woman as prey. We've talked about how naive she is and how other people can prey upon her as if she keeps herself the victim. But this story is about the woman waking up, not being naive anymore, saving herself from the circumstances that are unhealthy for her, and learning to tell the tale. So that was the natural predator of the psyche, and then the woman is prey. We talked about the key of knowing the importance of snuffling. I don't remember this one so much. I don't want to try to go back through all of it, but basically, oh yeah, this was talking about the key and how once you know, you can't unknow something.
Mm-hmm.
That was this section, because she tried to hide the key, even though it was bleeding. She tried to do everything she could to stop the bleeding, but the only thing that would stop the bleeding is the killing of Bluebeard, the predator, the husband that is waiting to behead you. Talking about, we talked about the scent of the blood, more into what the blood means and represents. And then we came to where we are now, which is backtracking and looping, which kind of goes hand in hand with the animal groom.
Oh,
So backtracking and looping, I'll just kind of give us a little summary of what she says here. Backtracking and looping are terms that describe an animal diving underground to escape and then popping up behind the predator's back. This is the second maneuver which Bluebeard's wife effects in order to reestablish her sovereignty over her own life once again. Bluebeard, upon discovering what he deems to be his wife's deceit, seizes her by her hair and drags her down the stairs. Now it's your turn, he roars. The killing element of the unconscious rises up and threatens to destroy the conscious woman. Analysis, dream interpretation, self-knowing, exploration, all are undertaken because they are ways of backtracking and looping. They are ways of diving down and coming up behind the issue and seeing it from a different perspective. Without the ability to see, to truly see what is learned about self, about the ego self, and the numinous self slips away. In Bluebeard, the psyche now tries to avoid being killed. Give me a quarter of an hour, which is basically 15 minutes. I mean, why they couldn't just say 15 minutes, but I mean, whatever. I don't think they even said 15 minutes back then or 10 minutes. Everything was quarter and half and a fortnight.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, be poetic, right?
Right? Exactly. Be poetic. If this is the last thing that I say, I'm going to sound sophisticated, damn it.
It's my one chance.
That's awesome. Oh gosh. So in Bluebeard, the psyche now tries to avoid being killed by asking for more time. It's no longer naive. It has become cunning because it pleads for time to compose itself, or in other words, time to strengthen itself for the final battle. In outer reality, we find women planning their escapes too, whether from an old destructive mode, a lover, or a job. She stalls for time, she bides her time, she plans her strategy and calls upon her power internally before she makes an external change. Sometimes it is just this kind of immense threat from the predator that causes a woman to change from being an adaptive deer to having the hooded eye of the watchful. Wow. So backtracking and looping, because that's really what she did, because she realized what she did. She tried to naively cover it up. She couldn't cover it up. And when it came to the fact of, oh no, like, I can't take it back, I am about to die, instantly. Hold up. Let's go back. Let's see this from a different perspective. I love that she connects that analysis, dream interpretation, the self-knowing, exploration, all of that shadow work that a woman does or anyone does is considered backtracking and looping, coming up behind the issue, seeing it from a new perspective. Because when you see it from that new perspective, then you know how to run away, right? It's like you can look and see those different avenues. Which road should I take? Should I go left? Should I go right? Which is,
Yeah, no, great point. Like, I'm glad you said that, because I think sometimes we don't always put that together. By the time somebody goes to see a therapist, they haven't been getting these warning signs or these opportunities to do that work. They keep wondering, why am I the prey? Why am I the victim? Why does this keep happening?
Right.
Until you hit a wall or a dark night of the soul, or you're in a life-threatening situation.
Exactly.
And certainly you can be in a quote-unquote life-threatening situation without being in physical danger. And that's kind of what she touches on in this chapter is, it's not necessarily that, if we're looking at it symbolically, he's maybe not killing his wives in such a literal sense, but if you're married to a man who doesn't allow you to be your full potential, you're dead. You're dead. So completely. Every woman he's married has been killed.
Internal.
So, it's internal, and that can happen anywhere. It can happen in your home life. It can happen at work. I think it happens at work a lot.
Right. Yeah.
And if you're a very young person listening to this, going through adolescence, I mean, how many young people ever felt suicidal or self-harm because they felt like they couldn't feel anything? It's that same kind of territory that we're covering here, I think.
It
so
really
I love
is.
that point.
No, I agree. And in trying to see the same situation and just from a new perspective, you can't necessarily change anything until you can see it differently. It's all about your perspective, which is really important when it comes to making a big change. Because if you're, whatever you're focused on is how you live, is what manifests in your life. If you're focused on the negative and that's all you can see and you can't look at it a different way, then you're never going to change.
Oh, that's the truth.
I'm going to read this sentence because it goes really. Ironically, both aspects of the psyche, the predator and the young potential, reach their boiling point. When a woman understands that she has been prey, both in the outer and the inner worlds, she can hardly bear it. It strikes at the root of who she is at center, and she plans as she must to kill the predatory foe. When opposing aspects of a woman's psyche both reach their flashpoints, a woman may feel incredibly tired, for her libido is being drawn away into two opposite directions. But even if a woman is fatigued unto death with her miserable struggles, no matter what they might be, even though she is starved of soul, she must yet plan her escape. A woman must force herself forward anyway. At this critical time, it is like being in sub-zero weather for a night and a day. In order to survive, we must not give in to fatigue. Go to sleep now. To go to sleep now is certain death.
Ooh.
Whoa, right?
Yeah.
When you, I love that she makes it practical and she tells us how we can look at these in our lives by being tired, by being starved, by being, depressed. These are the ways that it manifests in our outer world. And when it reaches that boiling point, once you know that the key is bleeding and is bleeding everywhere, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't stop it. You can't. It's you have to do something about it. She can't pretend like it's not there anymore. And not only that, but it's like she's drained because of all of that blood, right? It's draining, but she has to keep going forward anyway. Being depressed is draining. All you are is tired. Everything makes you tired. You don't have that motivation to do anything. However, even when you're, I can speak from this because I have been depressed before. I've been one of those people who I had panic attacks and I was suicidal, all that stuff. What was I trying to say? I was saying that she was depressed. I was saying that she was bleeding. Oh, she was tired because she's realized it. And then I was going to say, even though she was depressed, or even though you are depressed and you can't remember, you don't want to do anything, you don't have motivation to do anything, there's always that voice in the back of your head that's like, I could be. I know I can. I have that potential. And you're kind of mad at yourself because it's like, I know I'm more. I know I could be doing more. Why don't I? And then that kind of adds to the depression because you're self-hating and you're just putting yourself down because in the back of your mind, because in your soul, you know that there is more. And what this story is trying to encourage you to take that feeling of knowing that it's more and moving it forward anyway, through the tired, through the pain, through the blood. You gotta get through it. It might not be fun, but to go to sleep now is certain death. If I don't, then I'm going to be dead. I mean, do you want to live or do you want to die? That's kind of the premise here.
No, I love that. Great point. Yeah. And I think what this story and what this book is teaching is to hear some of that internal voicing a little differently. That part of you that's back there that's like, you're more, is for you. Mm-hmm. That's the wild woman. That's your deepest, those are your bones telling you, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's not trying to like give you shit. If the voice is giving you shit, that's not the one.
Exactly.
You're not going to give yourself a hard time,
Yep.
If you're reminding yourself of your power and you're denying it, then you're just denying yourself. 100%. And I kind of like that, like, I was just reading this it caught my eye while you were saying that his maniacal message is, for consciousness, you die. Because that's kind of just what the predator helps you realize. The predator, in the first part we discussed this, is really a part of the psyche. Yeah. It's really part of the world and part of the cycles And yes, it can absolutely act completely evil, but it's not always, it's just a natural part of it. Anyways,
Right.
I kind of like that he said that, because even though that's a threat, that's also the truth. Like, for the sake of her own consciousness, that naive self already died.
Yeah.
That was the blood on the key. That naivety is gone.
Completely gone. You can't, once you see, you can't unsee. Like, there's no going back. And then I love the next, is her response is to trick him into thinking she is his willing victim while she plans his demise. Yeah, it's like, okay, for my consciousness I will die. Therefore, I will use my consciousness against you and see where it gets me, because she doesn't know at this point that she's not going to die, right? She's just trying her best in this moment to plan for her dad to die. She's planning for the best.
Right?
She's hoping for the best. And
she's like, I've got 15 minutes.
Yes, she does. She does everything she can in those 15 minutes to stay alive. My thing is, so one of the things that she does in those 15 minutes is ask her sisters to look out, and then to look out for her brothers, and then she's praying, but she's supposed to be praying, but mostly she's just asking where her brothers are. I think this is kind of going into the next segment, but the fact that her brothers, it was just a psychic link with her brothers. Okay, she didn't pick up the phone. Nobody called them. There wasn't a carrier message pigeon. There was nothing. It was literally just, I'm going to sit here, use my energy to direct it towards someone who can help me, and wait for them to come. That was all she could do. But that was what she did, because that was all she could do. And because she had her faith in her brothers, she had her faith in her sisters, it worked out,
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah, she put herself in the position, well, and her sisters too, because they were still there. They didn't quite leave. Like, he showed up the next day. So it was only a matter of time before it was their turn too. Like,
he must have must have been there. Because remember the door open? I always wanted to talk about that. I wanted to be like, who was in there? Like, are we not going to talk about the ghost aspect of the door just being open?
And they're probably, she doesn't really, I don't know if she even mentions that. I don't remember her mentioning that.
I don't think she does.
But yeah, there probably is that aspect. It's that if you didn't have a hint before, this is your other hint that something's amiss. Like, don't open this door. That's the first cry of the intuition. And then it's like, you're opening all the doors. Don't open this door. Like, that's the second one, is like that hit of intuition. Like, you see it and you know that it's in there. You know which key that is.
And your older sisters, your older, wiser, future selves are looking at you like, hey, we're going to open this door. I mean, you might be scared right now, but we're going to see what's behind it. Like, we're going to finish this game.
This is not. That thing just opened by itself. You probably want to know about that.
You probably should know. Why is it making weird noises over there? Oh my gosh.
It's nothing good.
Awesome. No, nothing good. Oh God. Okay, so I'm trying to just make sure I don't miss anything in this one. I think not. Talking about, there are times to shiver and run, and there are times to not. At this critical time, a woman must not shiver. She must not grovel. She only dives into the ground to escape the predator and unexpectedly surfaces behind him. And then this is where we go ahead and talk about giving the cry, which is going back to for her sisters and her brothers. So when Bluebeard bellows for his wife and she stalls for dear time, she is trying to rouse energy to overwhelm the captor. Again, because she's so tired, she's bleeding all over the place, she's depressed. Like, she's got to work up some energy. No wonder she asked for time. whether that specifically or in combination be destructive religion, husband, family, culture, or a woman's negative complexes. So just in case anybody missed that, your captor could be any combination of destructive religion, husband, family, culture, or your own negative complexes, those negative stories that we tell ourselves, that we talk about ourselves, that can be a captor. Bluebeard's wife pleads for her life, but craftily, because she's learned, she's got consciousness now. She's got a little bit more knowledge behind her. So craftily, she asks for time, but please, she whispers, allow me to prepare for my death. Yes, she snarls, but be ready. The young woman summons her psychic brothers. Okay, this is where we're going. What do these represent in a woman's psyche? They are the more muscled, more naturally aggressive propellants of the psyche. They represent the force within a woman which can act when it is time to kill off malignant impulses. Although this attribute is here portrayed by the male gender, it can be portrayed by either gender, and by other things which are genderless, such as the mountains which snaps shut on the intruder, the sun which descends for an instant to burn the Moradora to a crisp.
Marauder.
Marauder, thank you. Marauder to a crisp. A little bit more. The wife races up the stairs to her chamber and posts her sisters on the ramparts. She cries for her sisters, do you see our brothers coming yet? And sisters call down that they see nothing. As Bluebeard roars and her sisters call down, perhaps they see a little dust devil or a whirlwind off in the distance. Here we have the entire scenario of a woman's surge of intra-psychic power. Her sisters, the wiser ones, take center stage in this last initiatory step. They become her eyes. The woman's cry travels over a long intra-psychic distance, where this is all in on the soul level and the spirit plane, to where her brothers live, to where those aspects of psyche that are trained to fight to the death if necessary, live. But initially, the defending aspects of psyche are not immediately as close by to consciousness as they ought to be. Many women's alacrity and fighting natures.
Oh, alacrity.
Alacrity. Many women's alacrity and fighting natures are not as close to consciousness as is effective. This one is one that I highlighted because I was like, oh man, that is so true. The dust devils or the whirlwind, your fighting nature can be further away from your conscious mind so that it takes a while for them to come when necessary, because you don't need your defenses. You don't need your fighting when you're naive. There's nothing to fight against. You gotta wake up a different part. Like when you wake up, when your consciousness wakes up, different parts of your subconscious wake up, and then they have to fight their way to the consciousness as well. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, no, that's true. You have to build it up. Mm-hmm. It's like that time that she took, I need this amount of time. That was all she had to build it up, which is impressive. But some of us need a little more than 15 minutes.
Some of us need 50 years.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a while. And I think it also involves, I think when you have those psychic links and you have those prayers that go out, it is having faith in it. She didn't ask her sisters, hey, do you see them coming? And then go, oh gosh, I hope they come. She didn't do that.
Right.
She was waiting. She's like, they're going to be here. Do you see them? Do you see them? She's looking out for them, looking forward for them.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of women, I maybe myself included, it's like we put it out there, and then we're like, oh no, they're not coming. Nobody's coming.
I do
And
that so
when we
often.
actually hang up the phone on the
Mm-hmm.
universe in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, because we're like, nah. And the second you do that, it's like, well, but don't you realize that if you keep putting it out there, a friend will call, a relative will call, a neighbor will
Yes.
knock on the door. Something will happen because you're
Yes.
putting it out.
Mm-hmm.
The cops show up for no reason. They're
Yeah.
investigating something else, and they're like, we just thought we'd see if you're okay. Like, if
Mm.
the more you put it out there that, you have to build it up in yourself. You have to conjure that within yourself that you're going to fight. And if you need that help, it will come to you.
Mm-hmm. It will. It exactly will. And it's just a matter of time. But you have to have that faith. You have to believe that it's coming to you, or it's not going to come. You might not know how. I mean, she might not have known, if her brothers were going to drive a car, be in a wagon, be on horseback, fly a plane, be in an air balloon. They might have gone underground for all she knew. She didn't care. She was just, as long as they got there,
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, me definitely, because I don't know how. And the way that I think is so fantastical, it's impossible, it couldn't happen. Well, I don't know. It's possible. I don't have to know. I just have to believe that it will happen and move forward, take that action in the faith that it's gonna go through. And it will. And that's all we have to know.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the truth. I like where it says, the brothers represent the blessing of strength and action. Or before that, I do have something highlighted a little before that.
Yeah.
When women resurface from their naivety, they draw with them and to themselves something unexplored. In this case, the now wiser woman draws an internal masculine energy to her aid. In Jungian psychology, this element has been named animus, a partly mortal, partly instinctual, partly cultural element of a woman's psyche that shows up in fairy tales and in dream symbols as her son, husband, stranger, and or lover, possibly threatening depending on her psychic circumstances of the moment. The psychic figure is particularly valuable because it is invested with qualities which are traditionally bred out of women, aggression being one of the more common. So it's not just like a total, it could appear to be strange, but in Jung psychology, what you're tapping into is actually a part of you.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. You could take all kinds of archetypes to be your allies. Really, in that case.
We really can.
Maybe you don't feel like a warrior, but you might really like Thor from Marvel or something, and you just start imagining that this archetype is present and is for you. For some people, shoot, it's Jesus for some people.
Exactly. However that comes, someone strong, something capable, something that makes you feel safe. However, that looks like in your life, it is a part of you. It has to, something that it's going to be something familiar to you. It's going to be something that makes you feel safe or not, possibly threatening, depending on your psychic circumstances, whether or not you need to be woken up, whether or not you need to be encouraged, whether or not you need, there's way different, many reasons for this lover, son, husband, stranger to come into your life. Oh man, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought again. Yeah, it happens.
Because it's usually traits that you don't think you have.
Right.
What is it in the moment that you need? Well, I need somebody to do this. Then you fill that role with that archetype.
You fill that role. You fill that role. You fill that your own role for your archetype, because this is something that you need. I was going to talk about aggression being one of the most common that are traditionally bred out of women, because we're supposed to be soft and sweet and nice and pretty, and we only talk when talked to, and we tend to the children, and we cook. Like, listen, If you're thinking about a Thor, if you connect with warrior Thor, Xena, oh, the warrior princess, I used to be all
Yes.
about some Xena.
Yes.
Oh man, you
It
got
was
some aggression
cool.
in you. Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
She was a badass. Okay, she was a badass. There's so many women warriors out there, and warriors were more women, were more feminine than people want us to believe. Okay, there were all the men in wars that were fighting were just not just men. Okay, there's a lot of Viking ladies out there that were slinging the swords around and shield maidens and stuff. I just want to make sure y'all know that we are completely capable of laying down our lives if necessary. We have that strength. Um, and it really is makes me sad when I think about how it has been bred out of us, because that we don't have a replacement for aggression, right? We don't have an outlet. That's what I was looking for, an outlet. Because if you take it away from us, then okay, you're not really taking it away from us. Okay, we all still have aggression, but it's way suppressed. And when you suppress something, it turns or festers into something else or somewhere else. Oh, what was that? You brought this up last time. There was a word about women, and you were like, it wasn't sneaky. Was it divisive, maybe? Do you remember? There was a word that women turn into when they don't have the right outlet. And we were like, yeah.
Yeah. What was that?
Oh, it was a good word that will fit right here in this blank.
It'll come up.
It'll come up. It'll come up.
Oh no.
It becomes negative. Like if we don't have a positive outlet for the aggression that has been suppressed, it comes out other ways very negatively. That then adds to the stereotype, of course, that when women are powerful, they are bitches and all that stuff. So it's like, no. I need everyone to come to the conclusion that humans in general are strong and powerful. Women have the ability to fight for themselves in any aspect. And in talking about in this psychic figure here, when it comes to realizing that in our own selves, it doesn't have to be gender specific. It just happens to be that way because we, as a society, add or attribute certain attributes to men.
Yeah, that's a great point. No, that's a great point. Yeah, that's important because there are very few examples of really strong women, like genuinely strong women, because that's something to kind of watch out for right now. Because in media and movies, they are taking this idea of the strong women a little bit far. Like at first you're like, oh, sweet, she's so cool. And then you're like, but that's not really how women fight. Like there is a bit of lack of consideration for women's own finesse and their own style of doing things. It's unless you were, a giant Titan woman, you're not going to be throwing around a 200-pound dude.
No.
Like, you got to be a little realistic. I don't care how much longsword you trained, honey. Like,
thank you. Yes. Okay, I completely agree with that. Did you watch the newest Lord of the Rings that came out? It was a series and it's all women run. Did you watch that?
I tried. I made it through the first half of the first episode. I might try again. It was a little cringe for me, but I'm also a fantasy snob, so
that is awesome. That is awesome because that TV show, you guys, is completely women run. Like most of the warriors are women. Most of the main characters are women. They're leaders, they're fighters, and I'm all for that. But where you're coming from, Rachel, I completely agree. Keep it realistic. I think that women use their we're more cunning, I think, than men. Just a lot of it.
Yeah. No, I would say that.
And I think that when creators try to make women into warriors, they're trying to make them masculine. And it's like, no, women don't take away their femininity or their womanhood from just because they wanted to add a sword into their hand or a longbow or whatever. They are way more cunning. So we could totally take down a 200-pound man, but we wouldn't try to like beat him up and like throw him over our
Like
shoulders
muscle
or
him.
pick. Right, we wouldn't try to muscle him. No, we'd set a trap for him or cut him off at the knees, or just cut his head off. Like way classier, okay?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying. Way more art form. All right, women would be like, oh, he dead, and I didn't even get my nails messed up.
Right? I love you. That's exactly the point I was trying to make. They try to make the strong woman into a man, into more masculine. It was funny because I was playing Fallout, and my dad came down and was watching me play, and there's these ghouls who are kind of like zombies, and he noticed that I was shooting their feet out because they just kind of bum rush you. They run in these mobs, and they will just destroy you just by hitting you so much. And so I started like shooting them from really far off and just taking their legs out so that they couldn't get close. He's like, why are you doing that? I just go for the headshot. I'm like, no, I slow them all down first.
Yes. Oh my gosh. See, cunning strategy. Like smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Gosh, guys they're so one track minded, right? They're just like, the only way to do it is to kill it. It's hard. No, there's definitely more than 5 ways to skin a cat. No, thank you for that's an awesome. So I just wanted to point out here that I'm gonna watch this new movie that just came out. It's called The Woman King. Okay. Woman King. It's supposed to be an African movie. So I think that they're trying really hard to like, black women warriors, trying to stuff as much stuff into one movie as possible, which I appreciate, but I don't appreciate at the same time because they're trying so hard to be relevant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch the movie. Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah, I would love to hear your feedback on that movie. I haven't seen it yet. I was hearing feedback about Wakanda Forever.
Oh, the second one.
Yeah, from Black women. And their biggest complaint was like, yeah, this is cool, but like, where are the strong Black men?
Oh,
like,
wow.
I was like, yeah, because like I want to see strong men in my community. I want to see strong men at home. I as much as I want to see strong women, we're awesome. I do want to see strong men. I do want to see fathers and sons and uncles and cousins. I want to see that. Like, it's like, wow, interesting takeaway.
And why couldn't we have that strong Black man for more than one movie? Like, he didn't just die. They killed him off in real life. Like, he's not he can't even play the part anymore. Like, and then like, I can't even understand because we were all so excited about Black Panther 1. It was great. I did too.
It was
I went
so
to see it
cool.
in theaters 6 times. Okay, I paid money 6 times. Go see that thing. I wish I had now, but anyway, that's besides the point. So we had strong Black men all in that movie, but the second movie, they're all dead, just like that. That's so. I see how they're playing, the Black community, and it makes me mad. So I wasn't going to watch it. I've been pointedly not paying money to go see it. So now that it's finally out on Disney Plus or whatever, I'm going to tell my sister to give you her password. I can watch it that way. Yeah. Like, it's for free. Someone else is buying it. Someone else paid for it. Like, it's not my money. I'll just watch it so I can, critique and I can see what people are saying. But it doesn't surprise me, actually, that women who are woke are saying, where are the men? Why are there no men? Like, it's great that it's, it showcases the power of the woman. But in a world where we have no powerful men, we don't have a male leadership, archetype. But really, the woman has become the archetype because she's the mother and she's single. She's doing everything by herself. Why are we propagating, or is that the word that I want? Why are we uplifting that? That doesn't make sense to me.
No, that was kind of odd. I was like,
Uh-huh.
this isn't cool.
Yeah. So, man, talking about movies and stuff, they're so relevant.
Hey, real world examples. These are things that are in life. These stories carry through.
They sure do. They sure do.
Very deep.
And you got it. Like, I love being able to discuss this stuff with you because stories and movies have the same underlying levels as these stories do, because that's all stories are. Movies, TV shows, they're all stories. They're all planting seeds in our subconscious. They're all, giving off or feeding off of our energy. I wholeheartedly believe that we give energy and get energy back when we are watching a TV show or a movie. Like, it's an exchange. It's not just a one way, like I am being affected and not giving out, or both ways. So storytelling is the way that we communicate as humans, and I love being able to pull from other stuff because it's like, oh wow, just makes it so true. But going back to story of Bluebeard, let me bring it back in here before I get off subject again. I had actually highlighted that paragraph as well that you read, so thank you so much. I think we're done talking about the brothers. They represent the blessing of strength and action. When a person finally does call forward that fighter warrior psyche in their own selves, and they are moving forward and they save their own selves from whatever is no longer good for them. We move on to the sin eaters, which kind of brings us back to the life, death, life cycle, which I'm so glad that we add life to the end of that, because that's what it is. Life, death, life. It doesn't stop. It comes back, and it is a cycle. I think I'm just gonna read this whole first page because I think I have a lot in here. So Bluebeard is through and through a cutting story about severing and reunion. In the final stage of the story, Bluebeard's body is left for the flesh eaters to carry away. We have a very strange and mystical ending. In ancient times, there are souls called sin eaters. These are personified by spirits, birds, or animals, sometimes humans, who, somewhat like the scapegoat, took on the sins, that is, the psychic waste of the community, so people could be cleansed and redeemed from the detritus of difficult life or life not well lived. We have seen how the wild nature is exemplified by the finder of the dead, the one who sings over the bones of the dead, bringing them back to life again. But this life, death, life nature is a central attribute of the instinctual nature of women. Likewise, in Norse mythology, the sin eaters are carrion eaters who devour the dead, incubate them in their bellies, and carry them to hell, who is not a place but a person. Hell is the goddess of life and death. She shows the dead how to live backward. They become younger and younger until they are ready to be reborn and re-released back into life. This eating of sins and sinners and the subsequent incubation of them and their release back into life once more constitutes an individuation process for the most base aspects of the psyche. In this sense, it is right and proper that energy is drawn out of the predatory elements of the psyche, killing them, so to speak, draining their powers. Then they may be returned to the compassionate life, death, life mother to be transformed and reissued, hopefully in a less contentious state. Many scholars who have studied this tale think Bluebeard represents a force, which is not redeemable. But I sense an additional ground for this aspect of the psyche, not a transformation from a mass murderer into Mr. Chips, but more like a person who must be in an asylum, but a decent place with trees and sky and proper nourishment, and perhaps music to soothe, but not banished back to a backward, but not banished to a backward in the psyche to be tortured and reviled. Wow.
Yeah.
A lot right there, right? Talking
Yeah,
about.
you
Go ahead.
read some of what I had marked.
Good. Yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah.
So just a little bit talking about how once Bluebeard is taken care of, once we have called for our psyche brothers, our power, our warrior psyche to come forward and to take care of the predator, the natural predator, the sin eaters or the buzzards, the raptors, they come and they eat Bluebeard's body. They eat his scraps, his remains, and they fly away. I love that she pointed this out because Bluebeard, again, is still a part of us. He showed us something that we couldn't show ourselves, right? That part of our psyche, it can be reused in a different aspect. It doesn't need to be killed completely. It just needs to be recycled so that next time I can see about someone else, or I can see about my spouse, or I can see about this job deal. I can feel that necessarily that I need to run, or that this might not be good for me, because I have already sensed that natural predator and I have recycled it into being able to, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to see it in the real world. That's not what I want to say, but oh well.
No, you're on the right track. Yeah, you do recycle it. She does. Let's see here. I think it says that is the last task for a woman in this Bluebeardian journey, to allow the life-death-life nature to pick the predator apart and carry it off to be incubated, transformed, and released back into life. Mm-hmm. So all the things that you learn through this, predator-prey scenario, whatever it is, you're part of your task as a woman and as a person is to revive what's worth keeping. Mm-hmm. You read it, she goes on in that portion to say, I don't want to portray that there's no such thing as manifest or irredeemable evil, because that does exist. Mm-hmm. But it's healthy to restore that part in yourself. Mm-hmm. Maybe that predator is not your bestie right now, but you don't want to shove that back into your psyche to fester. Mm-hmm. No, you send it back there and you allow it to recuperate. Mm-hmm. Whatever you pick it apart even further, because that's degeneration. That's what death is. That's what the goddess of hell is doing. Mm-hmm. When she's teaching those that are past to live backwards, you're getting it down to its roots. You have compassion for the things that are hard in your life. Yeah. And that's really where you win, is when you have compassion. You truly understand where it's coming from. You understand why it did the things that it did. Mm-hmm. To stay angry after the fight that you won is a loss.
It's a loss. It's a complete loss.
It's a complete loss. Man. Because you're still the victim. You didn't really win. You didn't really triumph.
Right. I completely agree. That's such a good point. I like how she says that she doesn't know how it all works, but following the archetypal pattern, it would look and work something like this. Instead of revealing the predator of the psyche or running away from it, we dismantle it. We accomplish this by not allowing ourselves divisive thoughts about our soul life and our worth in particular. We capture invidious. invidious, yeah, thoughts before they become large enough to do any harm, and we dismantle them, taking every thought captive. Like that is literally because we are the masters of our own mind. We are the ones who tell ourselves whether or not we are attached to a thought. Thoughts come and go. We're not attached to them. We don't have to be attached to them. We don't have to focus on them. And when we hear those negative thoughts, we telling ourselves that negative story, catching it in the moment and saying, no, I will dismantle this. And when you dismantle it, why am I thinking this way? How long have I been telling myself this? When did this start? What am I learning from this? Dismantling it to get to the very root of it, piece by piece by piece, until you know. That's why sometimes it takes longer than 15 minutes for someone to like reach their warrior, right? Because if you have to dig, or you have to call, or you have to unravel until you understand.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to go through this process while you're still in an external situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if your living situation is a certain way, you can reach this victory point while you're there. It's still going to be a struggle. It's still going to be hard, but this is part of the work. You know, to not allow the predator to continue to eat at you.
Right.
You know, I like her example. You never finish anything you start. So then you say, I finished many things.
Yes.
You are telling the story. You're telling the story. You saw what was wrong. You are able to conquer it within. Okay, you can conquer that predator within. And then you continue to hold your ground by using the strength of that predator. That's what she's talking about in this chapter. We refuse to entertain the predator. Its strength is extracted, and it's unable to act without us.
Yes.
We drive it down into the layer of the psyche where all creation is as yet unformed, and let it bubble into that etheric soup till we can find a better form for it to fill. So, you know, it's just repurposing that energy within the self.
Oh, I love that. That was so good. That was so good. I was trying to find out where you were reading from just now.
Let's see. 65 for me.
65. We have different page numbers. So sad. Well, one of the things I had highlighted was Bluebeard is one of several teaching tales that I believe are important for women who are young, not necessarily in years, but in some part of their minds. It is a tale of psychic naivety, but also of powerful breaching the injunction against looking. It is a tale about finally cutting down and rendering the natural predator of the psyche. It is my belief that story is meant to set the inner life back into motion again. The Bluebeard story is a medicine which is particularly important to apply where the inner life of a woman has become frightened or wedged or cornered. Story solutions lessen fear, elicit doses of adrenaline at just the right times, and most importantly, for the captured self, cut doors into walls which were previously blank. I completely agree with her that it's for the naive woman. I mean, that's what the story was about the naive woman and how she forced herself to look, you know?
Yeah, it is about curiosity. It is about wanting to know things. You know, I think that is where a lot of people get tripped up in their life as a young person. The amount of knowledge that you're allowed to have, or that somebody, you know, safeguards for you. Oh no, we don't talk about that. Or, you know, we don't read that. We don't watch that. We don't listen to that. Well, it's okay and fine if there are boundaries, and sometimes those are very important, but it's also okay to discuss that. You know, let's peek through the door a little bit. Okay, we can look through that door, and then we'll talk about it. You know, so that's really what this story is getting at. You know, she didn't ask any questions about this guy.
Questions? None.
Where does he get his money? What are all these horses? You know, these bells, it takes like 1,000 years to make a bell, you know, like
yeah, right?
you know?
man.
She's not asking, what do these keys go to?
Yes.
You know, he's like, do whatever you want. What is that? What does that
What
mean?
is
She
that?
doesn't ask any
Right.
questions. And that's
Mhm.
the nature that this story is trying to get women to revive. You know, your questioning, your cleverness,
Curiosity.
gosh, your curiosity. How many ladies listening have ever in their life when they're young have memories of don't ask questions, not right now, or
Mhm.
shh.
Yes. Yes. Or
That's
you
rude
know,
to ask.
yeah, we don't talk about that. We don't do that. No, that's just that's just for boys. Like
Yeah.
no. Oh
No,
gosh, that's so sad.
ask questions.
Hmm.
Ask them.
And it's always the girls who have been who are smart, right? They're quick
Yes.
in the brain, and they're asking these questions because they're catching up on them, and they're needing the guidance. But children in general are silenced because it's supposed to be seen. You're not supposed to ask all those questions.
I
It's
don't want to
easier to
answer those
shut them up.
questions.
Yeah, right. So I can definitely relate to that. Being shushed, being like just quieted and telling myself that, one of my biggest lies that I tell myself is that whatever I say doesn't matter, that nobody wants to hear it anyway. Like it's a waste of time to even try to tell anybody what I'm thinking because they know they're not going to want to listen, they're not going to agree. It's just there's so many reasons to just stay quiet because it's easier than trying to fight for my belief or my thought or my position or whatever, just to let it out there, let it hang out there. I don't have to defend it, just to say it. And it goes back to being quiet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to not be quiet. I mean, and not being so naive that you're going to be inconsiderate. I think when you're wise, that's what cunning is. That's
Yeah.
what being cunning is for.
Yeah.
You can ask things and still play the game with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You can still be polite. You can still be cordial. You can be civil. Shoot.
Mm-hmm.
But you can still get the answers that you seek.
In your
It's just
own power. Exactly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Standing in your own power, asking those questions, not diminishing yourself in any way. I was gonna say, like, would the girl have even opened up half of the doors if her sister hadn't been there? Like, her sisters are actually a big part of this story because again, this is all part of the psyche.
Yeah.
She's still naive. If her intuition hadn't told her, well, let's try to make a game out of this. Let's look and see. Since you don't have any curiosity, let me create some for you. Is basically what happened.
Yeah, she might have just sat there and eaten bonbons all day.
Yeah, at the kitchen. That's probably what he wanted her to do, was go ahead and get back, right?
Yeah.
Skills.
Like, you didn't even open any of these doors?
No,
You're
good.
curious
All
at all?
right, good. Let me have some more bonbons. Like, here's some chocolate.
Yeah.
Like, whatever to distract her. But she told herself, well, there's something not right about this, right? Well, my sisters we're gonna play this game, and that is the first key right there to her starting to wake up and ask her own questions and tell herself that there might be more to the story, and it's okay to go digging for that because I'm entitled to those questions. And these answers. That man is my husband. I live in this house. I should know what's behind these damn doors.
Probably a good idea.
Probably. Oh gosh, this is so good. And I think we only have one more section. This is the final section for the Bluebeard, talking about the dark man in women's dreams. Now, I don't know about you, but I haven't. I've been trying to remember my dreams more. But personally, I have not had a dark man and woman's dream, or I don't remember it. But Clarissa says that this is something that happens to every woman, that there is a universal initiatory dream that is common and is remarkable if a woman has reached age 25 without having such a dream. The dream is usually causes women to wake up striving and anxious. The dreamer is alone, often in her own home. There are one or more prowler types outside in the dark. Frightened, she tries to dial the emergency phone number for help, but then she realizes that the prowler is actually inside her house with her, very close. She perhaps feels his breath. Perhaps he is even touching her, and she cannot ring the emergency number. The dreamer awakens instantly, breathing hard, their heart drumming like crazy. That is the same type of archetype that is in the Bluebeard. The antagonists of this dark man dream are usually, in women's words, terrorists, rapists, thugs, concentration camp Nazis, murderers, criminals, blah, blah, blah. There are several levels to the interpretation of such a dream, depending on the life circumstances and the interior dramas surrounding the dreamer. Of course, everybody is different, guys. Your environment plays a key part in your psyche, in your growth. If you are what your environment is. You have to change your environment because it directly affects you if you don't like where you're living. So just to bring that all back in there. A little bit more, I said, for instance, often such a dream is a reliable indicator that a woman's consciousness, as in the case of every young woman, is just beginning to gain awareness of the innate psychic predator. In other instances, the dream is a harbinger. The woman dreamer has just discovered or is about to discover and begin liberating a forgotten and captive function of her psyche. Under yet other circumstances, the dream is about an increasingly intolerable situation in the culture outside the dreamer's personal life, one in which she is being called to either fight or flee. Now, that it definitely spoke to me, even though I haven't felt this, but this is how the Bluebeard comes to us. It comes to us in many different forms. We might not be really married to a guy who beheads all his wives, but we have a dream where somebody, rapist, terrorist, creep, bad guy, a thieves, maybe your dad, who the fuck knows? It doesn't have to be any specific person. It could be anything that is specific to you to gain your awareness of the fact that there is something in your environment that you need to fight or flee.
Yeah, she says, let us understand the subjective ideas for in this motive as applied to the personal and interior life of the dreamer. The dark man dream tells a woman what predicament she is facing. The dream tells about a cruel attitude towards herself as personified by the thug in the dream. Mm-hmm. That's why it can look like so many different things. Mm-hmm. And what it looks like is your biggest hint.
Yeah.
You know, she threw out some examples that sound really triggery, but that's the point.
That's
that
exactly.
Image is a wound, or it's just something you need to take care of for the next step in your life, in your progress, because that's the next sentence after that paragraph. The dark man in a woman's dreams appears when an initiation, a psychic change from one level of knowing and behavior to another more mature and more energetic level of knowledge and action is imminent. Like, you are about to level up. Whether you realize it or not, you are about to level up. And this right here, this is huge, and you need to take care of this. And I've had some of these, so I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. Gosh.
It's awesome. Intense. It's really intense when it happens. But it does take, being able to look at it and be like, what is this? And look at your life and examine, what am I being initiated into? For her, she was getting into a marriage.
Right.
She's about to, that's a huge leap from living with your mom and your sisters to living with a man in his castle in the woods.
Yeah, big difference. Talk about 180.
Yeah, no kidding.
You are now the woman of the house. And that's another thing. She doesn't even think of herself that way, as I just ripped this thing out of my ear.
Yeah.
She doesn't think of herself as the woman of the house. She doesn't place herself as his equal yet. She's still, you know, oh, I got the keys. Thank you so much. Oh, of course, I will follow your rules. You know, I'll go eat some cake. It'll be cool to see some gold coins. And her sisters are like, bitch, please.
This is your house now.
This is your house. Let's go see what's in all these rooms. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. So you said that you have had a dream. Do you mind sharing how the dark man came to you, or can you elaborate a little bit?
It's mostly in dreams, in that like liminal space, where it's like, you know, between waking and being asleep. So, you know, it's very he doesn't play around. He hasn't played around that part of my psyche, the animus, or doesn't fuck around.
No.
Being very serious about, you know, just because I was getting into more energetic healing practices as a topic of study. So so it's like, okay, you're practicing this. Are you ready?
Are you ready? Yeah.
Are you ready for this? Because it's going to change your sight. It's going to change all your senses. You're going to be more sensitive if you do this. Are you ready for that? Type of thing. And if you're manifesting a life partner, are you ready for that? What are you still afraid of in your home? You know, one of the dreams, actually, I thought I was awake. I really thought I was awake.
Lucid dreaming.
Oh my God, it was intense. Like, I could hear somebody light a bomb outside my bedroom door. Like, I heard that. And it went off. It went off. And it was so terrifying that, like, I got up to, like, go get my parents because they apparently didn't hear it, but they must have, because my mom was right there. But then that's when I realized it was a dream. And was like, I am still in bed. Holy, what?
Wow. Wow.
So, because that's something that happens, having very sensitive hearing. You know, can you focus when your ears can hear that cricket that's like 6 yards away, like it's right here? You know, can you focus? Can you differentiate what voice is from your heart or if it's from someone else? You know, is it a narrative? You know, can you discern? So a lot of, you know, that's a lot of times, you know, maybe for some ladies it's not that intense, but whenever you go through, you know, I would love to hear from more healers and people, you know, diving into things like mediumship and, you know, energy healing. Do you experience some of this, or have you always just been so on track that your psyche's like, you know, we're all fine and dandy, like, you know,
warnings or anything, no flashing yellow signs as you enter, you know, caution, be ready, put your seatbelt on, keep your all hands and feet inside of the vehicle at all times.
Seriously.
Right. Oh, gosh. Well, she talks about that more, though. You know, I love it, that the connection with dreams. I actually have a lot of the next couple of paragraphs highlighted. She says, no matter how old a woman becomes, no matter how many years passed, she has yet more ages, more stages, and more first times awaiting her. That is what intention is all about. It creates an archway, which one prepares to pass through to a new manner of knowing and beginning. So I think that definitely applies to you, because you have an intention which created a doorway in your dreams, right? And as you're passing through in the real world, in your 3D and in the 5D, you know, it's showing you a new manner of knowing and a new manner of being. She says that dreams are portals, entrances, preparations, and practices for the next step in consciousness, the next day, quote unquote, in the individuation process. So, as a woman might have a dream of the predator when her psychic circumstances are too complacent, I'm just going to say if they're too complacent, we could say that this occurs in order to raise a storm in the psyche so that some energetic work can be done. But also, a dream like this affirms that the woman's life needs to change, that the woman dreamer has gotten caught in some hiatus or ennui as regards a difficult choice, that she is reluctant to take the next step, to go the next distance, that she is shying away from her, from resting her own power away from the predator, that she is not used to being acting, striving at full bore and all out capacity. And that's very true. You know, you haven't been being, acting, trying, striving, doing. You know, you have to kind of build that momentum. You haven't, when you haven't used those muscles before, it feels weird, it feels odd, it might be painful because you use new muscle groups you don't know. So the dream is letting you know that you're on the right track, that you are fighting something, or you might not be, because she kind of goes on to say that even though the dream might be a wake-up call for some to pay attention, that it might be something else. So so for some people, it's a wake-up call to pay attention because something is gonna miss, blah 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 blah. Hold on.
I mean, she does acknowledge that it could be, a very real threat too. And,
in real life, like, but the one thing that comes to mind for me is an abusive lover. You could be in an abusive relationship or in a draining relationship or a relationship you just don't need to be in, period. And you could be having dreams about the dark man, and it's trying to tell you to run away. It's trying to tell you to get out of the situation. It's trying to tell you that you need to be being, acting, striving, running, fighting. You need to be doing something so that you do not, commit basically, spiritual suicide by staying in an environment where you are dead. So that's pay attention. You are in danger. Get out of here.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And she says, generally, it would appear that to the naive or not cognizant dreamers, these are meant as wake-up calls. Aloha, pay attention, you're in danger. And to those women who are quite conscious and involved in social action. So here's where it changes. So some women are in a bad, dangerous situation and are trying to tell themselves to wake up and get out of that situation. And then there are other women who are conscious of their environment. They're definitely involved in social action. The dark man dreams seem to be almost a tonic, which reminds the woman that what she's up against, which actually encourages her to stay stronger, to stay vigilant, to continue the hard work. So when women dream of the natural predator, it's not always solely a message about the interior life. This is what you were talking about. Sometimes it is a message about the threatening aspects of the culture one lives in, whether it be a small but brutal culture at the office, one within their own family, the lands of their neighborhood, or as wide as their own religious or national culture. That right there is what we were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one. I'm sure a lot of people don't see it that way.
Right?
Or maybe they do. I feel like a lot of people now, as much as the system would like us to hate on certain religions, there is something to watch out for with some of those belief systems. It doesn't require your hate or your loathing. but it is very useful and healthy to recognize when those things are not healthy.
Right.
When it's stifling
Right.
you, when it's not causing you to grow, when it's,
Mhm.
really very oppressive, even no matter how nice it seems on the outside.
Mhm.
That's a big one. I think it's a really big one.
Yeah, no matter how good the paycheck might be, if your culture at the office is degrading or belittling or draining in any way, then you don't need to be there.
No.
It's not good for you at all, regardless of the money. And I think that money is the driving force and factor, or their first instinct for a lot of humans, because of the society we live in. The culture we live in tells us that we can't do anything without money. We need money for everything. As first priority. If going and getting some seeds and feeding your family or digging a well or anything, it doesn't bring money, that it's not good. It's not. That's not the word.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But I mean, those are the things that would be more instinctual.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they might be very suppressed right now, but there is that yearning. I think there are plenty of people who would like to have a garden, who would like to have their own water, but they're so busy chasing the dollar, they're like, I don't even know how to begin to do any of that.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And that's why these predators show up.
They do.
Because it's like, okay, you saw, but there's no consequence to you knowing now.
Right.
Until there's a very real threat.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh.
And then you can't ignore it anymore.
You peek through the door, yeah?
Now what you gonna do? You saw what was behind the door. Now you're just gonna pretend like you didn't see it. You can't do that anymore. So sorry. I'm gonna keep reminding you. Your brain will keep reminding you that, well, the key is bleeding. The key is bleeding everywhere. It's bleeding.
Oh yeah, and that you're gonna keep committing internal suicide.
Yes.
Until you choose to do something. And you can't allow the predator to eat you.
No.
You can't, get all these signs and be like, I just don't know. I just don't know why I'm having these dreams. I just don't know why I'm in this fear. It's like, because you do know. Because you know that if you don't take the next step, you will die. More of you will die.
Gosh, that is so true. And going back to what you said about religions, so there is something, divisive in every religion. And you kind of just have to take the good and move on. But there are a lot of people, and I am thinking about specific people in my own life, who are just like, I don't know, I'm waiting for God. I don't know, I don't know, I'm waiting for God to tell me and to give me a sign. If God wants this for me, then I guess it'll be for me, but I don't know, because I don't, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, God can't do anything if you don't move, if you don't make a decision. If you don't make a decision, nothing will happen. You're waiting on God. And it makes me so frustrated now that I have backtracked and looped, right? And I can see it from the backside or a different angle. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to take away your God, because a lot of times I feel like people are like, oh, you're trying to take away my religion. You're trying to take away, God. You're trying to demean him. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to take away your deity. I'm not trying to say he has less power. I'm actually just trying to tell you that you have power that is connected to him, and he ain't going to do anything unless you do. Like, y'all's power is the same, and you can't tell people that because I sound like I'm God and I'm like some new agey or whatever, and there's a bunch of God. No, stop it. I'm just trying to tell you to create. Creation is our connection to divinity. Right? However you create, that is your connection to divinity. And when you let it out, you let your light shine. You just have to create your space. You have to take action and do it, and you will be fulfilled. So God will bless you. I know I'm not talking to you, Rachel, but that's what I'm trying to say.
No, I love it. I'm like, yes, preach it. Um,
Gosh, God bless whatever it is you decide, because he wants the best for you. And I wish that I
yeah.
could get that into some women's heads.
Oh yeah, just like shake a few people, like, come on. And just phrases and thoughts, psychological observations that get you burned at the stake. Could it be that, I mean, growing up in a Christian home, it was my understanding that if you have an idea and you want to go for it, the devil's going to attack you because he doesn't want that to happen. I was like, you know what, though? Going through this type of analysis, could it be that if you don't go for this, someone's going to light a fire under your butt? Like, how serious are you? How serious are you? Here's a challenge. Here's a roadblock. Here's some red tape. How serious are you? Your commitment will be tested.
It will. It will.
And if you think God's testing you, sure.
Right?
But like, the other side of the coin exists for a reason. That is the adversary. That is what that's for. That's what we're talking about. The predator, that internal part that is going to light a fire under your butt and be like, what's your commitment? How bad do you want to know what you want to know?
Are you actually willing to overcome this? Are you actually curious? Do you actually want your desires and your dreams and the blessings that are already meant for you? Do you really want it? If we could just go and open a door and get it, would it be that much fun? Would I think that I deserved it? Or would I have learned as much if it was just handed to me? That is why we're here. We're in this learning reality, dream, whatever, in order to recognize our own power. Nothing is ever just given to us until we take it.
Yeah, and the things that are given to us are there so that we can take it.
Yes! Oh, that's beautiful! Say that again, Rachel. I need to put that on a t-shirt.
Right?
Oh gosh, the thing, like, I really do want to write that down somewhere so I can make a quote out of that. What did we say? We said that the things that are given to us are meant to be taken, basically. Like, if we're not willing to take them,
it, yeah.
Like, we're not gonna do anything. Like,
I mean, that's in every single movie.
Every single movie.
Some benevolent force is like, here's a magic pair of shoes that make you run fast. Whatever, they give you the tools.
Yep.
You are equipped with the gifts and the tools in order to take it.
And if you don't pick them up, then you can't be mad that you haven't moved forward, because you didn't get over that obstacle. You didn't reach down to pick it up. You didn't do anything. So
you're like, the
when
shoes
you're
don't
like,
fit right.
What do you mean the shoes don't fit right? What are you complaining for? I mean, did you make sure to get your right size? Or are you just not trying hard enough? Like,
you're tying in a double knot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are they laced the way you want them laced? Like, what's the problem?
Whatever the problem is, realize that you have placed that obstacle in your own way, okay? And you have all of the tools that you need to overcome that obstacle, because nothing will come to you that you can't handle. Now, I know that's a cliche, okay? You say that all the time. It is such a cliche, and I don't want to hear that half the time either. God won't give you what you can't handle, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, listen, you better get out of my face with that. However, when I realize how much power I have in my own reality, how much my own mental power I have, right? That is completely, has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I have everything I need to move forward. Even if I don't know how, I put that obstacle in my way. I don't have to know how, okay? I just have to trust that I'm going to get over it because I'm equipped. And if I just hold on to that, I don't like using belief because I don't want to put really any religious spin on it, but like affirmations, if I can affirm, if I can accept, if I can acknowledge in the positive and hold on to that acceptance, that anticipation that it's going to happen. I don't have to know how, when, why, who, where, but it's happening. Like, that is hard to hold on to because we're so used to being 5-minute meals, drive-through, instant coffee, like emails. Like, we're not used to like waiting for anything anymore. We're all that instant society, you know. We don't believe anything we don't see with our own eyes type deal. Like, there's way more subtle magic and energy in this universe that is so much more beautiful that we can way more easily tap into than, you know, what we've been told, right?
Oh yeah, hands down. That was beautiful.
Yes,
all the yes.
That's awesome. Oh gosh, good. I don't even know where we are in the story. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. I'm kind of long-winded.
Well, no, I think we're on the right track. The last thing I have, one of the things I have underlined, ties really nicely into that, I think. It says, often the creative life is slowed or stopped because something in the psyche has a very low opinion of us.
Yes.
And we are down there groveling at its feet instead of bopping it over the head and running for freedom. In many cases, what is required to right the situation is that we take ourselves, our ideas, our art, far more seriously than we have before.
I have that underlined too. That is because, remember, our creativity is our connection to divinity.
Yes.
If we are literally sharing our ideas and our art as seriously and as taking them as importantly as they are to us, and then just shining that without any need to change people, without needing to be accepted, all of this extra stuff that comes on from the society, you know, brainwashing. If we just live in our divinity, we are living in our wild woman self. That is how we're supposed to be. That's how we're supposed to live. That is how we are free.
Yes. And, you know, I think it's important that she mentioned, because this is like, I think of like one person very specifically that I talked to. The psyche has a very low opinion of us, and we're down there groveling at its feet. Listen, if you're the victim, you are not going to get anywhere with this predator by continuing to placate it and be like, oh, but feel sorry for me.
No.
The predator does not feel sorry for you.
No, thank you.
No amount of, you know, trying to get it to be compassionate is going to help you. It's going to just take advantage of you because that's what it does.
That's what it does.
You have to fight it. And if you need that validation of how much your situation sucks or whatever it is, you're going to have to give it to yourself.
Yes.
And you're going to have to really, you know, move past it and be like, yeah, this really sucks. And you know what? I am worth so much more. You have to say that to yourself.
Yourself. Oh my gosh. Validation. That is such a big one, right? We want it from everyone else but ourselves. We have to have so much outside acceptance and validation from other people, but no, I validate myself. I know what my truth is. I know what my own worth is. I'm the only one who can give myself that worth. My boyfriend can't give it to me. My mom can't give it to me. My boss can't give it to me. Only I can. And taking back the power that I have given to someone else or to everyone else is way, first of all, eye-opening, but it's difficult because you realize, at least me, my waking up journey, learning, you know, not being the naive prey woman anymore, realizing how I was prey, and then changing myself from prey to power in every aspect. Because just doing it in my work environment doesn't do it in my home environment, doesn't do it in my school environment. Like, you have to do it every time that it comes to your consciousness that you're doing it. And when you realize that you in different ways in different scenarios, it's like, whoa, like what? I got a lot I gotta work on here. It's like, oh, okay, I'm seeing that again. But the more you do it, it's like, okay, you can pick it up more. It's like, okay, yep, that's the same dark man in this instance, the same dark man in this instance type.
Right? Start putting this together.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. But I know so many women. I know you had someone groveling at the feet, running for, instead of bobbing it over the head and running for people, just groveling, just staying in that victim mentality, because it's easy, right? Because I feel like victims feel like they need to be taken care of. They need sympathy. It's okay for them to be dependent on other people. They expect other people to take care of them, and it's like they have zero power, and it's comfortable for them. They will keep asking people for money until people stop giving them money, and they'll go crying to somebody else. Like, it's just
so sad,
right?
Well, and the thing is, the biggest irony is that the validation that they want will come to them. Like, and I can think back of certain things that I thought that I was unworthy of, or anywhere I had insecurities, but I have received the validation and the encouragement after overcoming it. Not by saying, oh, hear my sad story, feel sorry for me. It's like, you know what, here's what happened, and here's how I overcame it. And if that inspired or sparked somebody enough to say, wow, you went through a lot, and that really, whoa, that's where, I validated myself first.
Yeah.
And to have somebody say, you know what, you did, and you are worth it, and you are amazing, you are good, you are everything that you have been pushing yourself to be, and telling yourself, yes, it is true. You will get that. Like, God already says all those things about you. So you have to believe them first. And then if you need to hear that auditory validation from another person, you'll get it, because you're drawing in people who want to give that validation, who want to love you, who want to lift you up. It'll happen.
That's powerful. Because it's true. Whatever you focus on is what you get in return. If you tell yourself that you love yourself, then you get love in return. If you tell yourself that you're strong and brave and courageous, and you can go and you can make that damn business thrive, then your business will thrive. But if you're in a flunk, if you're in a slump, if you're telling yourself, if you're the meanest person to yourself, and I know we all are the meanest people to ourselves in our heads, right? If you continue that dialogue, then you won't amount to anything, because what comes back to you is people who tell you your story. They will tell you what you think about yourself, which is, if you hate yourself, then they're gonna hate you. They're gonna take advantage of you. They're not gonna treat you with respect. God, like you said, has already said all of those amazing things about us. We have to believe that it is true and hold on to that belief, where it doesn't do anything. It's just words we've heard. And our belief turns it into potential energy, okay? And then our action turns it into kinetic energy. Like, either way, you are the key to unlocking the energy.
Yes. Yeah. That's the truth.
Oh, gosh. This is so good. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead.
I love it.
If y'all just tuning in, we are the Green Room Extension, and we're talking about the women who run with wolves. All right. We're at the end of this chapter, and I think I'm going to go ahead and just read her closing, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So the cure for both the naive woman and the instinct-injured woman is the same. Practice listening to your intuition, your inner voice. Ask questions. Be curious. See what you see. Hear what you hear, and then act on what you know to be true. These intuitive powers were given to your soul at birth. They have been covered over, perhaps by years and years of ashes and excrement. This is not the end of the world, for these can be washed away. With some digging and scraping and practice, your perceptive powers can be brought back to their pristine state again. By retrieving these powers from the shadows of our psyches, We shall not be simple victims of internal and external circumstances. No matter how culture, personality, psyche, or other might demand women be dressed and behave, no matter how others may wish to keep all females in a gaggle with 10 dozing doulas, chaperones nearby, no matter what pressures attempt to compress a woman's soul life, they cannot change the fact that a woman is what she is, and that this is dictated by the wild consciousness, the wild unconsciousness, and that is very, very good. It is critical for us to remember that when we have dark man dreams, there is always an opposing, that is, a balancing power poised and waiting to help us. When we initiate wildest energy in order to balance the predator, guess who immediately shows up? Wild woman comes diving over whatever fence, walls, or obstructions the predator has erected. She is not an icon to be hung on the wall like a religious painting. She is a living being who comes to us anywhere, under any circumstances. She and the predator have known each other a long, long time. She tracks him through dreams, through stories, through tales, and through women's entire lives. Wherever he is, she is, for she is the one who balances his predations. Predations?
Predations.
Predations. What does that mean? Do you know?
I used to know.
It's okay.
I know it down.
Yeah, no, I think I could, deduce from the way the word is used. She balances out his, doings and things or whatever. So a wild woman teaches women when not to act nice about protecting their soulful lives. The wildest nature knows that being sweet, quote unquote, in these instances only makes the predator smile. When the soulful life is being threatened, it is not only acceptable to draw the line and mean it, it is required. When a woman does this, her life cannot be interfered with for long, for she knows immediately what is wrong and push the predator back where it belongs. She is no longer naive. She is no longer a mark or a target. And this is the medicine that causes the key, the little one with the scroll work on top, to finally cease its bleeding. It's empowering, right? Because that is exactly what you were talking about. Talking about your inner voice, your questions. We were talking about be curious, to see what you see, to hear what you hear, and then act upon what you know to be true. That part right there is crucial. You can't just listen. You can't just get curious. You can't just ask questions. You have to make some type of action upon what you know to be true.
Yeah. And not to worry about being nice or not about it.
That part. Ooh, yes. Talking about nice. Their soulful lives. Because nice doesn't get things done in this instance, right? When you are the prey, all right, and you are staring death down at the door, and you are nice and you are sweet, the predator is looking at you, smiling, licking his chops because he's drooling so much, because this is such an easy catch.
Yeah.
It's going to be more sweet and delicious because for him it was easy. If you just, what are you doing? You're just laying down and dying? No. No.
No. It's all right and good. And actually, the wild woman tells you must stand up for yourself.
It is required to draw that line in the sand.
Yep. It is required.
Once she is no longer naive, no longer the mark, and that is the key, or that's the medicine to finally stop the bleeding. The bleeding, it has been bleeding because you know that you need to make a change. And only thing that stops the bleeding is making that change. There's no time limit, there's no time frame. easy, hard. It's all relative because every person is different. In circumstances, environment, astrology, all of that is individual. So taking action may look different for Rachel than it would for me, but there is still the overarching symbol or subject that is we both took the action in our lives. We both had dreams or something that told us that we needed to make a change, that voice in the back of our heads that told us that we're not happy or that we're not fulfilled or that, you know, something is missing. Whatever that feeling you have that there is something about your life that you want to change, listen to it, dig into it, find out what it is, because that is the only way you're going to stop that nagging feeling, is if you act on it. And then you'll feel so much freer, because the wild woman will be able to live you, yourself, your true soul self will be able to live without saving. And then you're never going to want to go back. You can't go back. You won't be able to. You don't want to start the bleeding all over again.
No.
Oh gosh, how that's such an uplifting end to the story, right? Because not only did we overcome this predator who wanted to behead us, who was, you know, thought that he was cunning and chose us and picked us and put us to a test, but we got the best of him. Not only that, but we dismantled him, figured out where he came from, and then redistributed him back into places where he could be better used, so that we could move on as wiser, stronger women. I mean, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Oh gosh, I feel like there should be a part 2 now. Like, I want Bluebeard part 2, where it's the
right.
It's the wife. And the wife is like passing on her knowledge, right? She's got like all these naive women somehow, and she's like, you know, just teaching them all how to stop the bleeding.
Well, isn't that so funny about the beginning of the story? That's like his beard is in a convent with nuns. Like,
right?
the nuns are like, we are never getting married. Like, why is that there? They're like, oh no.
That is so funny. I didn't even think about that, but that is so true. They're like, nope, this is the symbol of men that we don't acquire. We don't, you know, fraternize with the enemy. All right, look, they got blue beards and they all try to chop our heads off. I'm gonna stay single.
Marrying Christ.
Oh my god, that is too funny. And then there was her friend's friend was the one who saw it with her own eyes. That was funny. It wasn't even her friend. It was like her friend's friend who had a cousin whose mom talked to her dentist. Oh my gosh. That was a great story. I felt very empowered by Bluebeard. I hope you too, Rachel. I hope everybody else listening did. I know I want to send this to a couple of my friends and be like, you need to listen to this.
It's a good story.
It's a good story. I don't know what story we have next time. Let me see. Hold on. So that was the end of chapter 2, you guys. Next time we will be talking about chapter 3, which will also be in 2 parts, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be on Rachel's channel, and I'm excited. It's about a doll in her pocket. Vasilisa. All right, so that's the first. My apologies to anyone named Vasilisa. No offense. I literally, it's just a first for me. That's all. Oh gosh. So that's the name of the next story, which will be premiered on Rachel's channel. We'll go through half of the chapter with her on her channel, and then the next half with me. just know that whatever the story is about, it's going to be amazing. And we are going to have so much fun picking out all of the. I mean, Clarissa does a great job herself. I mean, coming out with all of these things in the story. But of course, I love it when me and Rachel have our own thoughts and bring it to the story. So it's gonna be good. Did you have any wrapping or concluding thoughts about Bluebeard that we wanted to share?
I think I'm good. I think we covered a lot of great topics in dealing with recognizing this part of the psyche, dealing with it. I think reconciliation is just like probably my biggest thing is not is having compassion for that stuff, you know, because that's part of the knowing. I think, you know, maintaining the wisdom, not being bitter. You know, I think if you go through all the things, you'll learn how to recognize predators more quickly, without being triggered, because it's only through like bitterness and hanging on that you'll get triggered. Without being triggered into a fight or flight response, you can just navigate yourself right out of that situation and learn to avoid it. You know, I think that's a big part of having compassion, just saying, all right, we'll let God handle that. You know, like,
yes,
I don't need to engage that.
yeah, just not giving it any energy is huge.
Yeah.
You know, I totally agree, and that takes work. I mean, and that takes, you know, she talked about how you have to chisel, you have to dig, you have to wait for, you know, that subconscious to come to the conscious, closer to the consciousness. You know, we never said this was going to be easy. Good and easy are not synonymous. You know, whatever is good for you, it might not be fun, but if you are willing to do the work, to chisel, to dig, to run towards the light, as long as you have to run, if you're willing to overcome that obstacle, it's so much sweeter on the other side. And that is the thing that you have to remember, is that you are enough. Saving yourself is enough. Like that is the whole goal of the game. Like just save yourself and then go worry about, you know, everybody else.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. I think I've put my foot in my mouth enough today. So I'm gonna go ahead. And end it here. So on Odyssey, on Rachel's channel. Rachel, you want to plug your channel real quick?
Yeah, it's Local Goddess. It's under Galactic Tea House. So we're in the green room. And here, you know, I'm so glad we've done the extension because it's a lot of fun. Getting wild in the green room. So that's where I can usually be found, is on Odyssey. I do have a Telegram channel. I'm on Minds a little bit, but not a whole lot. So Telegram is Sunforge, and we do some events there, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been able to make any of the live events, but I've heard all great things. So you guys should definitely go check her out. Her links and everything will be in the description, and that is where we'll be next week. So thanks guys for tuning in. Thanks again, Rachel, for being here, and we will see you guys next time.